welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Julia. I'm a registered dietitian. I help people get to the root cause of chronic symptoms, especially eczema, by taking a comprehensive approach, looking at the microbiome, nutrition, and the nervous system. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about diet because I've been getting so many questions. A lot of people are going on really restrictive diets to heal their eczema, but they're not seeing any improvements. A lot of new clients joined our program over the last 2 weeks. Unfortunately, a lot of them have been put on really restrictive diets from previous practitioners, or they've been on a strict diet on their own. This is exactly why I want to create more episodes like this, because I think there's still a lot of misconception around diet, elimination diets being overly prescribed. So this episode, I want to dive into diets that do work versus diets that don't. And so if you're on your eczema healing journey and you're wondering about diet and whether or not the one that you're on is actually helpful, then make sure you watch until the very end. A little background about me before we dive into this episode is, if you don't know already, I used to have really bad eczema all throughout my life. I was actually born with really bad eczema. I went through something called topical steroid withdrawal back in 2015. And during that time, I tried numerous things to help heal my skin, strict dieting being one of them. I was actually put on an elimination diet from my naturopath at the time, but I really didn't see the improvement that I was anticipating from eating so clean. It wasn't until I figured out what was the root cause of my eczema, and there's multiple different root causes. I have several episodes on my podcast and also on my YouTube channel that talks about root causes, but it wasn't until I figured out what my own root causes were beyond food, and that's when I was able to fully clear my skin. And today, I no longer have any active eczema. My skin is pretty clear for the most part. I actually did a whole microneedling procedure a couple weeks ago, something that 10 years ago, I would have never thought I could do because of how severe my eczema was. And being able to do that without worrying about my eczema is honestly such a blessing. And I'm here to show you, those of you who are listening, that healing eczema is possible, doing all the nice skincare treatments is possible, using your favorite skincare products, wearing your favorite clothes, it's all very possible, and it doesn't have to be around strict dieting. Majority of the people that we see, diet is not the end-all be-all. By the end of this episode, I hope it opens up your perspective when it comes to healing eczema beyond diet and what to actually focus on when it comes to your diet. So let's categorize the diets that don't work versus the ones that do work. The number one diet that does not work for healing eczema are highly restrictive diets. These are the diets that get you to avoid all the allergens: gluten, dairy, eggs, soy, nightshades, high histamine foods, grains, legumes. Basically, all the foods that are supposed to be helpful for healing is often recommended to avoid on these highly restrictive diets. A perfect example of what this diet will look like is if you were to get a food sensitivity test, which, by the way, they are not accurate, and I have another episode that talks about why food sensitivity testing should be absolutely avoided. Usually that diets that are recommended from these food sensitivity tests are highly restrictive. There's usually a long list of foods that you have to avoid. Sometimes there are random vegetables like a pepper or garlic, or it'll get you to avoid nuts, which are good healthy fats, and just a lot of foods on this list. And the problem with a lot of these highly restrictive diets, there's too many issues with highly restrictive diets, but the number one thing that we see with our clients are nutrient deficiencies. When you restrict your diet for too long, not only does your skin get affected from it, it actually struggles to heal if you're not providing the nutrition. Your immune system becomes weakened. So we see that people who are on strict diets, they can't recover from illness. They get sick very often. They're actually reacting to more and more foods, even though they're avoiding. Then there's also food fear and anxiety. The smaller their diet becomes, the more anxious, because they feel that this is the way that it has to go, because they feel that they can't eat more foods. Not to forget the social isolation when it comes to being on a strict diet. You can't go out to eat. You can't go to a restaurant, right? There's a lot of foods you're avoiding, so it's just easier to eat at home. And even with that, your diet becomes so plain. There's a lack of diversity, and we know when it comes to healing eczema, we need fiber diversity, diet diversity in general, and that's what helps to fuel the body for healing, but also helps to support the microbiome. And I will also say a highly restrictive diet is the diet that you cannot follow long term. If you find that right now the diet that you're on is not sustainable, it's actually causing you more stress, you're thinking about your diet all the time, and you're worried about every single ingredient, every single food item you're putting into your meals, then that's a sign that your diet is too restrictive. I worked with a client last year. She came to me on a highly restrictive diet as well. She was avoiding gluten, dairy, sugar, candida foods. She also tried avoiding histamine foods. And even though she was eating super clean, her eczema was still flaring. She was still having difficulty sleeping. She was still itching a lot. So it was very apparent that the diet wasn't working and there was something underlying going on that's causing her skin to flare that went beyond her diet. So after we figured it out, what her root causes were: dysbiosis, she had fungal overgrowth, she also had gut dysfunction, nervous system dysregulation. And once we worked on her case by putting all the pieces together, she was able to reintroduce foods without noticing symptoms. And we started to see her skin to improve because she was able to get those nutrients again back in her diet. For those of you who are listening and you're wondering if your diet is working, I want you to really think about, what is the purpose of this diet? What is it actually doing? Is it getting to the root cause? Or are you just avoiding foods hoping that your eczema will improve, hoping that things will get better? We don't want to use diet as the default when it comes to healing eczema, because if the diet is working, if the diet worked, then your skin would be clear, right? If avoiding histamine foods worked, then your eczema would slowly start to improve. You may not have a histamine issue and you may not have a diet-related issue when it comes to your eczema. Now, of course, there's certain people who are put on elimination diets from other practitioners and they do see a change in their eczema. Is it the diet that's helping, specifically those foods you're avoiding? Or is it because you're generally eating healthier from what your diet was before, right? Let's say you didn't have the best diet before you started your health journey and you went to go see a practitioner and she put you on a strict diet and it's a lot healthier than what you used to eat before. Then yeah, of course, your inflammation is going to improve. Your symptoms are going to improve when you are generally adopting a healthier lifestyle. Now, does that necessarily mean that the strict diet helped? We don't really know for sure, right? Especially if you try to come off the strict diet and started eating those vegetables that you used to avoid and you're noticing symptoms again, then that tells us that there's still something deeper that needs to be looked at and the diet isn't really doing that for you. Always ask the question with your practitioner. I think this is something that a lot of clients and patients should really think about when they're seeing a practitioner, is ask them, what is the point of this diet? What is it doing? Like, why am I avoiding histamine foods? Do I actually have a histamine issue? And can you please provide an assessment as to why you think that? We have to ask good questions sometimes, and a good practitioner would be able to explain things, explain her clinical reasoning as to why she's recommending certain things. Really important to ask good questions because it's going to help you feel a little bit better in terms of your protocol and the purpose of it. That's the diet that doesn't work. Highly restrictive diets. A lot of other diets that we know that are often recommended for eczema healing fall into that category, right? Like I mentioned, histamine diets, candida diets, vegan diets, which actually I don't really agree with when it comes to healing eczema. The AIP diet, salicylate diet, that's another diet that's really restrictive as well. Any diet that's not sustainable, those are restrictive, and they usually don't work because it doesn't get to the root cause, and it's really just another band-aid. Okay, so I feel like I have so much to say about diets that don't work, because each diet has its own thing, but I just want to share with you that if you're on any of those diets or even a diet that feels restrictive to you, I encourage you to look deeper. Okay, diets that do work for healing eczema. I'm really excited about this one because you guys are going to love it. These are the ones that you can follow sustainably. It fits into your lifestyle. It doesn't feel like it's hard work. You actually feel good from the meals you're preparing. This is the diet that you can still be on when you're traveling, when you're at a restaurant. Maybe you have some modifications because of certain allergens or certain sensitivities, but for the most part, you should be able to go out and have dinner with your girlfriends. The best diet for healing eczema is the one that you can follow, period. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Of course, it's important that this diet is still providing what your body needs, which actually leads on to the second part of this, is that it needs to be personalized to you and your body and your lifestyle and your preferences, right? You can have the best diet, but you can't be consistent with it. then it's going to be really hard to achieve results. What this diet usually looks like is it's relatively easy, or at least we can modify it for busy professionals, for busy workers. And this is why personalization is really important, because a diet that suits well for somebody that works from home all the time is going to be very different than someone that has to go into the office. Working with a dietitian can be really helpful, wink, wink, because we can actually help you personalize your diet and make your life easier, which we all want when it comes to life in general, but also just healing eczema, because we know eczema can be very draining and we don't want it to be any harder. If I could recommend one thing when it comes to diets that do work, besides it being sustainable, is having balanced meals throughout the day and also at every meal. If you can focus on protein, fats, and fiber, then you're good to go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know a diet is working if you generally just feel better. You feel less bloated, better digestion, maybe skin's a little bit hard, because we know that when it comes to eczema, it's not just about diet. There's other things that we have to look at. So maybe your skin is harder to see in terms of improvement, but energy-wise, digestion-wise, these are other clues we want to look at to tell us that, okay, the diet is working and it's helping. The other thing is you just generally feel less stressed about your diet. That's a huge one. If you feel stressed, it's not a good diet. You want to feel good. You want to feel like you can maintain it. So if you're someone listening and you've been on a strict diet for a long time and you're wanting a change, you know where to find me. I have a free consultation that you can book in the show notes. There's a short little intake form for you to fill out so I can better understand where you're at when it comes to your journey. As a dietitian, we're very well trained in helping our clients reintroduce foods back into their diet safely. And our goal is to help you rebuild your diet so that you can start to enjoy foods again without restricting, build confidence around your meals as well, less food anxiety, less food fear, and of course, improve your skin, improve your gut, and improve your overall health. If you like this video, make sure you hit subscribe for weekly videos on YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on Spotify or Apple iTunes. Don't forget to also share this to anyone else who may be needing help when it comes to their diet for eczema. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your night, and we will see you in the next one.